We travelled from Lausanne to Paris via Geneva. Our train took us through the Aubiger region of France and over majestic rivers like the Ain and the Rhône. When we arrived in Paris, we checked into our hotel and we ate a well-deserved meal. The next morning, we went for a walk. A colourful piece of paradise in Paris, Rue Crémieux is a place of pastel-coloured houses and shutters, a quirky little street in the centre of the city. The Place de la Bastille is a square in Paris where the Bastille prison once stood until the storming of the Bastille and its subsequent destruction in 1790. The Cirque d'Hiver has been a prominent venue for circuses, exhibitions of dressage, musical concerts, and other events. We then took the metro to our hotel, which is in a 19th century merchant gallery. The Grévin Museum was founded in 1882. It is one of the oldest wax museums in Europe. Its Baroque architecture includes a hall of mirrors, originally built for a Universal Exhibition in 1900. The museum now contains some 450 characters arranged in scenes from the history of France and modern life. Here we spend some time with some great people. Harrison Ford, Hugh Laurie, Ted Merad, Gérard Depardieu, Pope Francis, Emmanuel Macron, Albert Einstein, Victor Hugo, Charlie Chaplin. We ended the day having a drink and then a meal in the Zephyr. We decided to spend the Sunday in Versailles. The Palace of Versailles is a former royal residence built by King Louis XIV, located in Versailles, about 19 kilometers west of Paris. About 15 million people visit the Palace Park or Gardens of Versailles every year, making it one of the most popular tourist attractions in the world. We went by metro and then by train. Since 1979, the Palace of Versailles has been listed as a World Heritage Site and is one of the greatest achievements in French 17th century art. Louis XIII's old hunting pavilion was transformed and extended by his son, Louis XIV, when he installed the court and government there in 1682. A succession of kings continued to embellish the palace up until the French Revolution. In 1789, the French Revolution forced Louis XVI to leave Versailles for Paris. The palace would never again be a royal residence, and a new role was assigned to it when it became a museum of the history of France in 1837. In the early 20th century, the palace recovered its historical role when the whole central part was restored to the appearance it had had as a royal residence during the Ancien Régime. We then visited the opera, where we were treated to a recital by resident musicians and singers. left Paris on Monday morning, taking a train from Paris to London. When we arrived at St. Pancras, London, we immediately stocked up on products unavailable on the continent. We then made our way to our room in Todfoster's in the north of London. On Tuesday, we decided to have a look at the latest addition to the London Underground network, the Elizabeth line. We took this from Liverpool Street to Paddington. Paddington has been the London terminus of services provided by the Great Western Railway and its successors since 1838. Much of the main line station dates from 1854 and was designed by Isambard Kingdom Brunel. Paddington Bear is a fictional character in children's literature. He first appeared on October 13, 1958, in a children's book, A Bear Called Paddington, and has been featured in more than 20 books. He was discovered in London Paddington Station and is still present there. The Sherlock Holmes Museum is situated at 221B Baker Street, a splendid four-story Georgian townhouse dating back to 1815 that served for many decades as a lodging house. Sherlock Holmes made his residence from 1881 to 1904. His rooms have been recreated to give visitors an insight into the life of the world's first consulting detective. Next to the museum is the London Beetle Store. We will be coming back to this gentleman in a couple of days. We then moved on to Leicester Square, the home of the Swiss Centre and of cinema. After listening to the Swiss clock, we went to see the statues representing great actors who made their British premieres here. Bugs Bunny, Gene Kelly, Mary Poppins, Harry Potter, Harrison Ford, Charlie Chaplin. We then went to Soho, the Chinese part of London. On Wednesday, we took the tube up to London. Eat a nice meal in a pub. And went to the theatre to see Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. The story is set 19 years after the events of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. It follows Albus Severus Potter, son of Harry Potter, who is now head of the Department of Magical Law Enforcement at the Ministry of Magic. When Albus arrives at Hogwarts, he gets sorted into Slytherin and forced to live up to his father's legacy, making him resentful of his father. Rowling has referred to the play as the 8th Harry Potter story. We went home through the lights of London and the rain. Luckily, we had bought plenty to read in the tube.
Change here for the Northern Line. This is a Peterborough service.
On Thursday, we went to visit the Alexandra Palace. The building and its park were named to commemorate the popular Princess of Wales, Alexandra of Denmark, who had married Prince Albert Edward in 1863. In 1935, the BBC leased part of the palace for use as a production and transmission centre for their new television service, the world's first public broadcast of then high-resolution television were made in November 1936. We then went down to Finsbury Park to investigate an abandoned railway line to Highgate. In Highgate we found a bus to London Bridge and the Shard. Unfortunately, when we arrived, the weather took a turn for the worse. But the rain soon stopped and we were able to get a few views of the Shard and the city as well as a rare view of the bridge opening. We decided to move away from the city to North Greenwich. There we saw the London Dome and the new developments, as well as the cable car over the Thames. On Friday we packed our bags and went up to London. We decided to visit Abbey Road, made famous by the Beatles, to try and cross the road ourselves. This was in fact fun as we discovered that the crossing is still very popular with Beatles fans, and that thousands of people cross each day. We then ate some flapjacks, which we also missed when we were out of the country. We then went to Malvern Station, which is one tube station away. We travelled to Stratford-upon-Avon and checked in a hotel. We then went to see a very thought-provoking merchant of Venice situated in 1930s Britain at the newly restored Rose Theatre. We walked back to the hotel up Sheep Street. We stopped at the Garret Inn, built in 1596, with parts dating back to the 14th century, making it one of the oldest buildings in Stratford-upon-Avon. The next day we walked around the town and did some shopping. We drank a hot chocolate on the high street. The main theatre was showing a very well-rated Macbeth. We went to see that. On Sunday we started off for Oxford, punctuated by a hot chocolate in Leamington Spa. When we arrived in Oxford we wandered round the town. St. Michael's Church and Tower, built in the 11th century. Hertford Bridge, often called the Bridge of Sighs, links two buildings of Hertford College. The Tower of the Five Orders is ornamented in ascending order, and the columns of each of the five orders are classical architecture: Tuscan, Doric, Ionic, Corinthian, and Composite. It is part of the Bodleian Library. The 18th century Baroque Radcliffe camera serves as a reading room for the Bodleian Library. St. Mary's Church was started in the 13th century. The covered market dates back to the 1770s and constitutes one of the early steps between medieval markets and individual shops at today's large shopping malls. Waterstone's bookshop proved fatal to our planning and caused us to arrive late for our meal. We ate a good meal at Brown's with our friend Francisca. St. Martin's Tower, often called the Carfax Tower, is all that remains of the 12th century St. Martin's Church. It was the official city church of Oxford, where the mayor and corporation were expected to worship between about 1122 and 1896, when the church itself was demolished. We then continued south to the last step of our trip, Portsmouth, a large port and an important naval base. We went for a walk around town and came across the Guildhall. On Monday we visited HMS Warrior, which was one of the fastest warships of its time. We then moved on to HMS M33, built in 1915. She saw active service in the Mediterranean during the First World War and in Russia during the Allied intervention in 1919. She was subsequently the mine-laying training ship, fueling halt, boom defense workshop and floating office. HMS Victory is a 104-gun first-rate ship of the line of the Royal Navy. She was ordered in 1758, laid down in 1759, and launched in 1765. With 245 years of service as of 2023, she is the world's oldest naval vessel still in commission. Victory is best known for her role as Lord Nelson's flagship at the Battle of Trafalgar on 21st October 1805. She additionally served as Keppel's flagship at Ushant, Howard's flagship at Cape Spartel, and Jervis's flagship at Cape St. Vincent. She has been a flagship of the First Sea Lord since October 2012. The Mary Rose was a ship in the English Tudor Navy of King Henry VIII. She was launched in 1511 and served for 33 years in several wars against France, Scotland and Brittany. After being substantially rebuilt in 1536, she saw her last action on 19th July 1545. She led the attack on a French invasion fleet that sank in the Solent Strait north of the Isle of Wight. The Spinnaker Tower is a 170-meter landmark observation tower. It has 3 viewing platforms, one on the top of the other, at heights of 100, 105, and 110 meters. The tower represents sails billowing in the wind, a design accomplished using 2 large white sweeping metal arcs, which give the tower its spinnaker sail design. The view through the glass floor of the tower. We travelled out to the port to catch our ferry to France. Distance from Portsmouth to Caen is approximately 200 kilometers. Our ship, the Normandy, can accommodate 2,123 passengers and 600 cars. We had a last drink in one of the bars and retired to our cabin for the night. The next morning saw us up at daybreak, making our way to a station in Caen. From there we travelled to Paris Saint-Lazare. From Paris we continued to Evian. And finally, the next day, we took a ferry back to Lausanne.